Got some real milk and chocolate going on here. Look at me and look at her.
I don't know how to respond, Julian, but I want to talk about the show. Great way to change the subject, right? So, remember how I told you I wanted you to think about vulnerability at the show? What did you think with that in mind?
So I have a confession to make. I may have forgotten that request along the way.
Okay, fair enough.
But I can make a retrospective analysis if you'd like.
Fair enough. Let's do it.
So this entire or a good amount of the show reminded me of being in a Black American church, in the sense that the music was very much themed on the sort of lively gospel music you'd hear at a Black church in America, although there were no overtly religious lyrics or tones in what they were saying. As for vulnerability, a lot of the lyrics they were talking about, it was a lot about freedom and liberation. I mean, there was a stage where there were professional dancers who were partially undressing themselves and they were changing into their sound suits. I mean, that was I was a little surprised by that, because that's not something I'd seen in a show before. Like, why are they dressing down? And then I realized that they're exposing themselves, not in any lewd sort of way, mind you. And they're ultimately, it's like a metamorphosis.
It's raining. Okay, so initiation was one of the themes within the show.
Yes.
So there's the idea of the initiate and the practitioner.
Yes.
And so the initiates were the men and women that you described, mostly men
Yes.
who were sort of partially clothed or sort of partially disrobed, and then were slowly kind of garbed in these fabulous sound suits.
Very fabulous.
And the practitioners,
Flamboyant.
I mean, I thought it was interesting. I actually listened to the artist interview, and he and his collaborator were talking about how the practitioners had to remember the sequence of all the different parts of the garb, and that they would use mnemonic devices, like they would think of, for instance, that the red stick would correspond with fearlessness, and that the initiates would start thinking about fearlessness as well.
Uh-oh. Oh, here it comes.
Julian,
You're a little mischief maker, aren't you?
there's something I have to ask you.
Uh-oh.
So, before we took our Chelsea tour, we sat in a diner and I asked you what your criteria for art is, or what you value in art. And you told me that you value craft and skill.
Yes.
And so we just saw a work by Nick Cave in which he's actually given up a lot of control to the audience, because it's completed by the audience and the dancers and various performers who improvise a lot. What do you think about this idea that is only partially crafted?
You spoke about vulnerability. I mean, what's more vulnerable than that? He's not just presenting an item. He actually wants us not even to accept him, but to embrace him, to interact with him. I mean, that is really putting yourself out there. At the end of the main performance, there is this enormous liberation jumping around in those multicolored suits, the rainbow suits. They look like rainbow dust, a mix between the sort of rainbow dusters you might use to clean your house and an elaborate tribal outfit like an African king might have, or something of that nature. But afterwards, there were all these professional dancers, and then they were interacting with the audience members, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And did I show you the clip from my former professor of African Studies and African art? And there's the Bois people of Burkina Faso have various sort of raffia costumes, or I don't know if costume's even the right word, that go with masks, and they're very elaborate dances. Did I show that to you?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to show you.
As a slight tidbit, the name Burkina Faso actually means land of the upright man.
Okay, so the last thing that I want to mention to you is that apparently Nick Cave chose his dancers based on their biographies, among other things. And so they actually, during their auditions, had to talk about an emotional or a social issue that had deeply impacted them. And that was part of their audition. And he actually wanted people who had experienced major obstacles. What do you think about that?
I think it's very fitting in the context of the work that he's doing. I mean, consider the fact that he's had to surmount enormous obstacles in his life to be where he is right now.